Hi there, this is Jeff from the AutoHub show, and this is our personality interviews. Ian couldn't make it today, but that's okay because I'm here with our friend Erica Bruno-Martin from Global SUV. Hi, Erica.
Hi, Jeff. How are you?
I'm terrific. You?
I'm doing great. I'm so
Good. I'm
excited.
really glad. So I'm glad you're here with us, and uh, we've had you on the show before. We've always really enjoyed connecting with you, and you know you have a very compelling story, and it's very interesting as we were talking before we recorded the interview, started to record this. It's nice to see somebody in the business that isn't sitting there saying, I have done this because I'm great. And they're also not saying, I fell down, I was in the mud, I lost my shoes, and somehow I managed to walk 66 miles to the nearest dealership and still help them sell 600 cars that day. So please tell us more about yourself and what you're doing now, your company, and everything else.
Yeah, so my name is Erica Bruno-Martin. I started in the car business as soon as I was born, basically. My grandfather had about 17 different franchises. Some of my first memories are actually on the showroom floor, like coloring and hanging out, running around. So for me, the car business is in my blood. I'm a car girl at heart. Like, I can't get out of it. What I think I've done well on LinkedIn is, I am a human. Like I have learned everything I can about this industry. I've washed cars, I've sold cars, I've done service and parts. I've been on the OEM side, I've been on the vendor side, I've been on the, tech side, etc. And what I love about it is it's fun, it's ever changing. There's always something to do, and no matter which, view of it you have, there's always more you can learn. And I think that is what keeps me coming back to the car business. And for me, I think my story of who I am and the struggles I have gone through and the things I have experienced hopefully only makes me a better role model in the long term for, not only just people in general in the business, but hopefully people who would like to get into the business.
Very interesting. I like that. It's funny, you touched on something. Um, so many people in the car business have not done, in the dealership level, because we're mostly dealership centric here, but
Yeah.
they've not done the jobs. I've seen in all my years, when I started in the business, the usually were family run businesses, as you come from. I didn't know your grandfather had 17 franchises. Wow, he was one of the first mega dealers. But they were family run businesses. The person running it was the son of the. I hate to say it was the son. Unfortunately it was still before a lot of women got involved in the running of dealerships. But they were the son of the person who was the owner, who may very well have been the son of that person, and the second or third generation. They did start washing cars. They did spend time on the floor. Then it changed to when they sent them to, the automotive business school somewhere, and they got a degree, and they came in as vice president of everything, and then it transitioned to multiple franchises and people with other degrees or bringing in C-suite people and everything. So it's very interesting how if you get somebody running an organization that has no idea how to do it, like frankly, most people came from sales, and not many GMs actually had a clue what went on in the shop.
Yep.
They might have done their NADA course, but they never spent time there. So it was very, very good to see that from you. And also, you transitioned out of the dealership level. So your company is now Global SUV.
Yes. So
So tell
Global
us about that.
Yeah, Global SUV is a very infancy startup, but we are a media company where we are working on creating a community for SUV ownership, SUV consideration, and also stories about SUVs and how people use their SUVs. And I think that's really what drove me to it because it's very people centric to get the end consumer, hey, tell us about an SUV that you love, or if you're considering a Land Cruiser, an Escalade, of this. Here's what we think about it and what you should look at when you go look at and test drive that vehicle.
Actually, it was very funny. I was just thinking as you were saying that. So we talk about SUVs, and we're all transitioning to alternate fuels, even though people are really, really political about it. And I've said many a time that, oh my God, I think we see the arguments about SUVs and ICE, and it might as well be talking Trump and Biden. But
Yeah.
I had to say one political thing. But in EV world, have you come across anybody that looks at somebody in a new Hummer, which is massive, which is almost the size of the original H1, and look down on them because you're doing something wrong?
So,
Yet, of course, it's a 10,000 pound monster. It's again, it's all what people think about things. Um,
it's so interesting to me too to watch the changes in the industry as far as not only coming from ICE vehicles to hybrid to alternative fuels. I think what's really interesting for me for the dealers is not just tackling this big elephant in the room, if you will, of like, okay, how do we transition not just sales into this, but service? And I think service is going to be the absolute gangbuster of the next 2 to 3 years of, hey, if you don't have your service process down, if you don't have the training that you need for technicians, if you don't have as many technicians, because again, are you only going after certain people for technicians? And that's the thing that I'm really excited about. And I think that's the next wave for us across, the automotive industry is service and really refining service.
well, our friends at Tesla have certainly suffered the pain of not having a proper service process. That's for sure,
Definitely.
and it's costing them business. But it doesn't matter. No, it's they're doing just fine. I think. Now you're also a person that's very much um, out there, for lack of better terms, on diversity, and it gets a bit of a bad term because, not a bad term, it gets a bad rap. Pardon me, because diversity to me is just everybody on the floor gets sales.
Mhm.
Should have a song. It's I've always worked again where Vancouver is a very, very diverse community, like people of all backgrounds, and I've always pushed, not because I'm such a great guy, but because I've always really enjoyed having ladies in the business.
Yeah.
The best salespeople I've ever had were that, because not many men can sit there and put their hand on the table and go, "Are we doing something or not?" Because usually they'll stand up and a woman will say, "Screw you," and a man will say, "Come on, we're going to go at it." But a
Yeah.
woman, and I'm not saying because a woman is aggressive. I'm just saying because it's a great skill. Probably come from having to put up with idiotic men. But so what, you know, why has this become such a thing? Other than, of course, you're a lady, other than you grew up in the car business. Why is
Yeah.
it important?
So for me personally, I think a part of my story is the fact that, it was my grandfather's businesses and he wanted my mom to take over. And, people would be like, well, why your daughter? Like she, because at the time she had had four of us under the age of five. So she was very busy at home, raising kids. And they're like, well, why? Like she's been out of it for so long and this and that. And he's like, she's got it. Like she's just got not only the presence, like the knowledge, exactly like you said, she's not afraid to tell someone, hey, this isn't going to work, or, this isn't happening, or whatever it is. And he's like, she's strong enough to do it. And it was a bit of a fight in order to get her approved. So she was the seventh female Toyota dealer principal. I don't know about Hyundai. I would love to learn about that. Any of my Hyundai friends, let me know. But, it was really interesting to see her transition into being the dealer principal, being a female dealer principal in an incredibly male dominated industry. And I think for me, because I was about 8 or 9 at the time, it was really fascinating to watch. First off, this world I had known that was so male dominated that while I had dreams like I'm going to be up there someday, I wasn't sure if I was going to be in the same way that the men had been. And so seeing my mom do that and some of the stuff that she had to deal with, like being called the B word at a meeting where they were like, do I have to listen to this? And she was like, I can't believe that just happened. But, stuff like that. And it happens. And it's something that, even myself, I've been in the industry on my own 15 years, and I've had it more than I can count as far as harassments, comments, this, things about my hair, things about this. And it's just, it degrades you, but it also breaks you down after a while. And I think for me, being a part of WOCAN, being a part of, initiatives that want to drive more diversity, it isn't about like, oh, Jeff, you don't know what you're talking about and we're better than you. It's not that. It's, hey, does Erica have the skill set needed to be at the same level that Brad does, let's say, and could she be a GM? And is she able to do it? And if she is, great. Let's give her the opportunity versus just going with the same Brad that we always gone with. And I think that's really where, like a lot of the conversations we're having within WOCAN, a lot of the things that we're trying to do for the next year and hopefully the next 2 years is talking about mentorship, talking about, hey, how do we support you either in the role that you're in now or where you want to go? And what are the type of things that you need to learn? Because like, I know even when I started, on the OEM side, the guys would get into these like competitions of like, oh, whose card could I get first? And they could easily walk into these offices and get cards like it was nothing. Just like, hey man, can I have a card? Whereas like if I tried that, they'd be like, well, what do you want? Like, why are you in my office? And it's like, okay, well, I just because you're not a part of the bro club, and it's tough. And that's something that, I think has definitely improved in the last few years, but it's still a battle. And I think it's something that is very important to our long term success because if we don't innovate, we're going to die on the vine. So,
Yeah. Well, something, I completely agree with what you say. Something in the car business too, we're notorious for the person that gets the promotion is the one that the best salesperson, salesman, excuse me. It was the best salesman.
yeah,
And they became the sales manager, and they many times crashed and burned because what made them a good salesman didn't make them a good there.
right.
If they did it with a lady, she took the skills and moved in there. I never saw a lot of women that burned out going into a management position. I saw a few that got there because of nepotism,
Yeah,
and I know a couple that are really their father's getting on there in years and they won't get a franchise, and it's not because they're a woman, because they've overcompensated. I hate to say it, because that's the biggest challenge. A guy can get away with being a total jerk
yeah,
to another guy. A woman, like you say, gets labeled the B word and has to wield a very, very big hammer
yeah.
to get around that. So I can see the challenges. We see it more and more and more now, but it's still I hate to say it, but you see a promotion, and you'll see it on LinkedIn announcing Ms. Jane Smith is the GM of so and so.
Yep.
It's not the same as Brandon Smith. Actually, I know a Brandon Smith, but Brandon Smith or Brad Smith being the GM. It's like Brad's great. This is a woman, and her name is Jane,
Yeah.
and we got to get around that. And I'd love to see things become a people thing. And now it sounds a little pie in the sky, and my extremely conservative friends will go, "Don't be so silly." But the fact is you deal with somebody good, you're happy.
Yeah.
Period. It
And I
doesn't.
where it ultimately lies too is that we're not asking for special treatment. Like I don't want special treatment. Like the thing for me, because a lot of people are like, why don't you just go into your family's business? And it's like, while I would have loved to in some way, I'm really glad that I did not because I have now learned a huge skill set. I would have never gotten there. I've learned and seen so many other dealers that I would have never experienced if I had just stayed home and sat in Toyota or Hyundai in Massachusetts. And not only that, like I now have skill sets that, again, I love my family dearly, but they do not have. Like, and will never have because I have gone out, I have done it on my own. And that's the one thing that I'm really proud of is like, no one can take that away from me. No one gave that to me. I earned that. And so I think that's where, especially for diversity initiatives, it's like, I'm not asking you to give me anything. I don't want anything for free. I want to earn it and I want to learn and I want to, have the same type of opportunities. And I see it with a lot of younger women especially, where they're like, well, I'm on the board, and yet they're still telling me I'm not doing good enough, or I've won it 3 months in a row and I'm still not getting promoted, and this guy got promoted over me. And that's the other thing, that it's like, give them a chance. What's the worst thing that's going to happen? You're giving the guy a chance. Like, why can't you give her a chance? Things of that nature.
Yeah. Well, and it's terrible that anybody gets promoted without merit.
Yeah,
You know, period.
I agree. And unfortunately, I've seen it in multiple companies in multiple ways, nepotism, things of that nature. And like you said, 90% of the time, they're not leaders. And I think that's the other thing that our industry really needs to start looking at, is like, what are true leaders? Like, what are true leadership skills? Can they mentor? Can they teach? Can they motivate? Like, my grandfather was all about motivating. He would bring motivational speakers all the time to the dealerships, and like, that was a big thing for me. Is I actually went through some motivational training myself, because he was like, you need this to build your foundation of confidence, and like, things of that nature. And I think that's something that we've probably gotten away from in the last few years, that I think if we could bring back, it would be incredibly beneficial to everyone in all of our dealerships, independent and franchise.
Well, that's it's very true, and it's very funny. One of the best, smartest people I ever met in the car business was a dealer principal. They took their son and they shipped them across the country to another dealer that he knew.
Yep.
And they said to the other dealer, employ him, please.
Yeah.
I'll return the favor. If he makes it, keep him aboard. If he doesn't, get rid of him.
Yep.
He gets no special favors or anything.
Yep.
And 2 years later, he came back. And I remember the first thing that he did is his first day back at work, he walked around to everybody and said, hey, how you doing? He was sitting in the shop on a tech's stool, just chatting with the guys.
Yeah.
And he would never have done that if he'd just moved into his management role.
Yep.
I knew another one that took their son and made them a manager, the fleet manager, doing 130 a month. And he did such a good job, he left at 12 a month.
Yeah.
So, and he just put him right in. So definitely it's a good thing. And I admire you because you had an opportunity, I believe, to step into the dealership role. And the 17 stores, I'm sure there's a job somewhere, but they're not one, how would I put it? Not many people would have respected you for getting it on your merits.
Yeah, and I think that's the other thing, that for me, like, I never, and maybe it was because of growing up, I would get like friends or people in high school, hey, can you give me a free car? Like, buddy, I don't even get a free car. Like, what happened? And plus, like, so I was in high school, I was going to school, I was doing every single music group you could do, because I'm a singer and I play the trumpet. And then on top of that, I was doing a musical theater school, that I would also be doing plays and things of that nature. Because again, I wanted to go to a really good school, so I needed certain extracurriculars. And then on weekends, I'd be working at the dealership, filing, answering phone calls, whatever it is I could do. And that was the one thing that I think, I talk to even some people my age now, and I'm like, I was constantly doing something. I was constantly working. I was constantly going. And so, to work 8 hours to me is not a big deal. And I think that's something that, if you're not exposed to hard work early on in your life, it is difficult when you go into, certain jobs, because it's like, well, what else do I do? Or I have to find something else to keep me occupied, or whatever it is. And it's like, there's always something to do. You just have to figure out what it is that you need to do or want to do in order to advance.
Yeah, no, that's very true. And sometimes, well, that's a lot. There's no respect for somebody that's given anything.
Yep.
There really isn't. Sometimes people think they've earned things they haven't earned because they put in. Yeah, I'm a big advocate of hours don't necessarily mean results.
Work smarter, not faster.
Yeah, I had a conversation with somebody yesterday of just about that, where we're learning now, as we're moving into a new generation of the car business. You can't, first of all, you're not going to get success by working a 6-hour shift.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to burn out by working 12 hours, 6, 7 days. and then
Yep.
you're no good to anybody. And that usually in the car business ends up with, we're moving in a different direction. Thank you very much. I love that one. But so what, seeing as how we mentioned things have changed there, what message are you sending from you? Because again, we've talked about your viewpoint on things is different. And it's really kind of nice as somebody that grew up in the car business now doing the outside of the business, because when you start dealing with dealers, you actually understand them, you get them.
Yeah.
And one of our favorite jokes in the dealer land is an OEM rep, factory rep comes into the store and they went through university because they won't hire them unless they have a degree.
Yep.
And they don't even have to have a business degree. It just has to say B something behind it. Could be a Bachelor of Fine Arts, which there's nothing wrong with that. I admire you because you sing, because I really wished I could sing. But it doesn't matter. But then they come in and they start telling you how to run your store. And I can only imagine a female dealer principal having a male person come in with them and saying, you have to do this.
Yeah.
And they go, what do you mean? Well, because your hours per RO aren't up there.
Yeah.
And they go, how do you know that? It says right here. It says right here on my sheet of paper or on my screen. So, with young people entering the business, and many of them are scared away. I know that firsthand. I see that they come in, and if somebody wants to get into sales, they gotta work pretty hard. If
Yeah.
they want to become a service advisor, they gotta be, my favorite thing that I talk about to people is, how many service departments say, would you like fries with that? To use the McDonald's analogy, you had a 16-year-old kid at the drive-through window can say that.
Yeah.
But so when young people enter the business, because you know you are you're young enough to get it, and you've had the experience of people that are old enough to got. You see, I didn't cross that line and say you.
No, I love this question because, actually, when you sent it to me, this was the one that I think resonated the most with me because, I am younger, I'm 36, but at the same time,
No, I thought
but,
you were way under that. See,
hey,
my favorite line is I identify as 12. So
once I keep looking younger, then I'm good. But the funny part is, as I was looking at that question and trying to think of like, what do I say to this? Because I used to be that young person, right? I used to be that one who was like, what do I say? What do I do? And when I first got my first rep job with Toyota, I just remember one of my mentors who's a good family friend, and I bless him every day that, he really helped me a lot when I entered into the OEM side. He goes, Erica, when I first met with your grandfather, I remember I was saying, you need to do this and you need to do that and this and that. And he threw the phone at me. Like he threw a phone at this man. And he was like, get the out, you're in my office. Who do you think you are? He was like, but it was the best learning lesson of my life because here I am, this young cocky kid coming in and telling a veteran, what he's doing wrong without even going and looking and seeing, like, how do you run your business? Who's in charge of the service and sales and this and that? He's like, learn as much as you can. And I will never forget this line that one of the guys that worked for my grandfather for years, an old Portuguese man, he's like, Erica, look at the car. And I was like, okay, like what Miyake thing are we doing right now? He's like, what's on the car? And I'm like, the frame, the body? Like, I was like, I don't know. He's like, tires. Every car needs tires. It connects to the road. Learn the tires, learn the car. And I was like, oh my God, that's so true. Like, it's so simple, right? It's almost like stupid in the sense of it's so simple, but if you don't learn the simple stuff, you're never going to learn the big stuff. And I think that's something that has always been really, really important to me. And even when I walk into dealerships now, like I want to know the receptionist, I want to know the porter, I want to know the salespeople, I want to know the GSM and the GM, and like that's the type of thing I want to know the people. And I even still have dealers to this day who will message me and be like, "Hey, I miss you," or "Hey, I have a question," because I know you're going to know the answer. And that's what I love. Like that's what I love about this business. And I think that's something whether you're a young person who is already in the business or a young person who's contemplating the business, give it a shot because it's such a great business. And don't be afraid to ask the stupid questions. Don't be afraid to learn every little thing. And also don't be afraid to reach out. If you admire someone or you like the way that someone's doing something, be like, hey, you know what? I'm stuck. I don't know what I'm doing. Like we had that happen with one of the women at WOCAM when we were at NAMED. She was like, I love this business, but like I'm getting burned out and I don't know what to do. And and like four of us ladies were just like, have you tried this? Have you tried this? Talk to us, and she was like, I came back renewed. And I'm like, that's literally the best compliment you could ever give me because that's all I want to do is hopefully inspire someone else to say, I can do it one more day.
I have to say, you started with the Miyaki moment, and I thought to myself, "Well, this is good. That's quite cute, just a comment." But I can picture this person. I can picture him going, "Ah, Erica, start with the tires. With the tires, they go round and round and make the." And it's funny because this wasn't on my question list, but the mentorship is massive. But it's sort of it's right up there with a term of now it escapes me because of course I had to think about it. But so in terms of mentorship, somebody saying, "Hey, do this, just come back this way," like you just said with this other person on WOCAN at that there. A few people came in. It doesn't have to be formal. I am
Exactly.
Yuki. You must get one with yourself. No, and that's a tremendous. It's a tremendous thing, and people, they don't realize that, and it's hard getting a mentor.
It is. It's
I
incredible.
never had anybody mentor me because, unfortunately, in the car business, especially, you're supposed to listen to your manager,
Yeah.
and you're supposed to listen to the dealer,
Yeah.
and you know, it's terrible because we all know that saying, right? You're only as good as your last month.
Yeah.
And that's, this person doesn't have your best interest at heart. They have theirs. And should they have your business? No. But somebody else, you need somebody separate
Yeah.
that does that. Your Toyota guy, he learned it from a different kind of mentor as he ducked the phone, but
Yeah.
it sounds like your grandfather was is or was quite the individual.
He definitely was. It's funny. I joke that I come from a long line of bears because when he would get angry, they would say it was a bear attack, and then my dad was actually the brown bear mascot when he went to Brown. So we're just a big family of bears. So
Well, it's funny. Bears can bite the crap out of you, but they also hug really well.
exactly.
So, if somebody were to come up with something that mattered, came up with a phrase to describe you, use a sentence, what do you think that would be?
So I actually had to ask my few of my best girlfriends. I was like, I don't even know what I would say. Like, what? How would you describe me? Um, and they all came back basically with a variation of the same sentence, which was a kind, empathetic leader who is authentic and leads with her heart. And I'm not gonna lie, I teared up a little bit last night when they sent it to me, and I was like, but I'm glad. I'm glad that not only I think people who are very close to me see that, but I think that's something I've done really well on LinkedIn, especially is like, hey, I'm a human. I am not perfect. I've had my things, but I've learned from them, and I'm gonna get better every single day, and you can too. So
That's great, and I believe that describes you a lot because you've made, as I said, you've made this very interesting. I have LinkedIn open on my other screen here, so I get to see all these comments about it. But there isn't your posts aren't, oh, life was tough and this and that, and they also aren't, what I. It sounds terrible, and I may come across wrong here, but I can edit this out if it does. Um, is there's so many people who are in positions because they didn't earn it or they took it.
yeah,
That's a big thing. They took it.
yep,
Who post these inspirational things.
yeah.
And you don't, it's very hard to respect that.
Yeah,
You know,
and
when you
that's
do get,
something.
somebody that's been at a dealership for many, many years, started as a, on the floor, worked their way up, has done all that stuff, paid the price, and now they're in a
Yep.
position, different story.
Yeah. And I think that's something that, I not only learned from my grandfather, but I think my dad especially, is like, how do you treat people? Like, how do you treat someone who has zero to give you? And like, I think that's something that I always tend to look at is, it's the waiter, situation, if you will. Like, how do you treat a waiter? If you're rude to a waiter, I'm probably gonna hesitate on really getting deep with you, because like if you're rude to someone who's bringing you food, which is like my favorite thing in the world, like how are you gonna treat someone else who, again, et cetera, et cetera. And I think it's something where, my grandfather, again, kind of like you said, like back in the day, he was a pretty big dealer. He employed over 800, almost 1,000 people at one point in time. And he had the type of personality that he could walk into a room and not know a single soul. And all of a sudden, by the end of it, he'd be friends with all of them, regardless of social status, regardless of this, regardless of that. And he would always tell me, um, Erica, my Rolex tells the same time as my Timex. And basically, what that means is, hey, I don't care if you have a Chanel bag or Louis Vuitton or whatever it is. Are you a decent person or not? Because at the end of the day, all that stuff doesn't matter. It's just nice things to have. And I think I'm really, really glad that, I'm only 36 and I know that, versus some people who have only learned that later in life. And the other part is, as I've learned, uh, bullies might get older, but they don't grow up. And I think you have to learn to avoid those type of people because hurt people hurt other people. And I wish them the best. I wish them all the healing in the world. But if you're still a bully and you're 40, 50, 60, 70, whatever age it is, maybe it's time to look in the mirror. So,
Yeah. That's that touched something very interesting. I always, and I've said it many a times, I always try to instill in the staff I supervised. We all have a judgment day, and the judgment day isn't that the religious side when somebody looks down and says you're going in the up elevator or down escalator, the down
yeah.
slide. It is when somebody that you matter to meets somebody during your life, post your life, whatever it is, and they hear the name. So if they hear Erica Bruno-Martin, do they say DK? You know what DK is down there? Good. You never know because we had a different term up here too. But or do they go, wow, look what she created? What a great person. Here's the best part. That lady that was the Wokan. You know what? Here I am. I don't even know who it is. Don't want to know. Here I am in my 50s, and this young lady with, is so put together person said to me, "Hey, you know what? And help me."
Hmm.
And that is a key. And God willing, this happens to us because too many people have a lineup of people ready to dance in their grave.
Yeah.
And they are some of the most famous people in the world, some of the richest people in the world, and even the ones that say they're good to people. I hate to say it, a very famous, very, very rich person who everybody thought was such a great guy discovered he had a secret little life,
Yeah.
and that's the way it should be, and that's how we should conduct ourselves.
Oh,
Um,
yeah. Agree.
so I've got one final question,
Sure.
and then please ask away whatever you'd like. Why have you chosen to make so much of your life public on LinkedIn versus the usual Facebook, Instagram, etc.?
Yeah. I mean, for me, like I've always been pretty open on social media in general. So little backstory, I was a major dork, if you couldn't tell, in high school. Like I was constantly working, constantly doing other things. And I didn't have a ton of friends growing up. I had some good friends, but not a ton. And I just was very, very focused on, hey, I want to get into the car business. I want to, you know what I mean? Like I was very focused on my goals. But what really changed for me, when I went to college, I used social media to meet people because, again, didn't know anybody. I was going to Vermont 5 hours away from home. And that helped me a lot. But then when I was 20, I had gastric bypass surgery and I lost over 100 pounds. And back then, again, this is 2008 at the time, that was very taboo, to the point where people were very judgmental about it. And for me, I had done it for health reasons. I was 20 years old, almost 21, unable to climb a few flights of stairs, like just really, I had some other health stuff going on, and I was like, I want to live past my 21st birthday. And so, a lot of people are like, oh, I would just lie about it. Just say you were on a really good diet, or, like that you went to a fat camp or something of that nature, for the summer, because I had done it during the summer of my junior year, going into senior year of college. And I was like, no, no, like I can't do that. I can't lie about something that has changed my life. And not only that, like I shouldn't have to. I shouldn't be ashamed of this. And so I started really talking about it on my personal Facebook, and it really helped a lot of people. And I've had about, I think in the last 15 years, about 6 or 7 people who have either had it done or have made major life changes in order for their health. And that's something for me, a big source of pride. So for when I started posting on LinkedIn, though, it was mainly for the fact that I had lost my job. I needed to find a new one. So I was trying to grow my network. I was trying to find more people. And then there was an incident where a woman who I admire a lot, I had met her at GSM, or Gulf States Toyota. And then now she's with Group One. She had made a post about how she was in a women's group, like training type thing. And there was a woman talking, and I want to say it was just after the pandemic. And evidently, this woman had gained a lot of weight during the pandemic, which, unlike so many of us, it was a hard time. And I guess some women, I don't know if they were together on the phone, whatever, were making fun of her. You could hear it in the background of this Zoom meeting, and making fun of her weight. And first off, I was just like, that's not right. Like, especially as women, we have so much other stuff on our plate that comes at us all the time. Like, we definitely don't need, that type of cattiness and animosity. But not only that, like, it made me realize that maybe I had hidden this portion of my life that I had gone through that was a big change for me. And so I shared her post, and I was like, hey, FYI, did anybody know I used to be 325 pounds? And if you didn't, here's my story. And I'd written my story in an article, because it was a huge life changing thing. Because that summer, too, I was also a camp counselor at this camp that I had done, which was a camp that helps you get ready for college. And so here I am losing a lot of weight. Like, I lost 80 pounds in a summer. So I literally am transforming in front of these preteens, 13, 14-year-olds who are going through major life things, puberty, trying to decide if they tell their parents if they're gay or not, trying to fit in at high school, all this really tough stuff. And here I am physically like transforming in front of their eyes. And I was able to just say, hey, like I was very open. I was very honest. I had had surgery. I'm going to be losing weight. I don't want you to see the small amount that I'm eating as something that's normal for you, because it's not, and having those conversations. And so once I opened up about that on LinkedIn, I received so many messages of people being like, I've struggled with my weight. I know what it's like. I've had issues at work because I've gained some weight, things of that nature. And it just really showed me how much you have to bring your whole self to work. You have to bring your whole self to your life. You have to bring your whole self to the people around you, because someone might be struggling with something that they can't talk about until someone else talks about it. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, I'm not alone. And I think that's something where, sometimes, and I've gotten made fun of it. I've gotten people like, oh, you like to go for a walk on the beach? Yeah, like, don't you, bro? Or, oh, you're a LinkedIn influencer. And I'm like, I guess. Yeah, sure. I was like, at the end of the day, what I do on LinkedIn is not only to help my network, to help myself, to help others, be the best that they can be. But I hope someone goes, you know what, because of Erica, I'm not alone. And I know that I can get up the next day, and I don't want to, not be in this world anymore, because I know what that feels like, and it's not fun. And I'd rather be the person that someone says, you know what, I can succeed because I know she can succeed, than anything else. So yeah, that's kind of the long story of it.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's very funny because you can't separate business from life.
Nope.
Um, and there can be too much of either one of them.
Yeah.
What's that? All work and no play makes Erica a dull
Oh,
girl.
exactly.
And it's very true. And I mean, we've all, I fell into that rut of 14-hour days.
Yeah.
And who was it for? And I had a series of bad car accidents that I ended up, you know, moving away. I could still physically have been there, but I
Yeah.
said I got to stop. But life can be unforgiving, and everybody's got a problem. It's the most together person in the world is far from together. I
Exactly.
mean, look at me, no. Um, but thank you so, so much. I have enjoyed this immensely. And is there anything else you want to share with those who'll be watching?
I just want to say thank you to you and Ian because you guys have always been so supportive and just so fun. And like literally when I see your names pop up, I'm like, yay. And in case anyone didn't know, Ian and Jeff, the prior one was my first podcast ever. So I thank you guys for that too. And yeah, let's keep rocking and rolling. I can't wait for the future together. So
Vice versa. Thank you so much. I think I won't speak for Ian, but I feel the same way. I love seeing your posts, and with so many posts and stuff, you watch the ones that you like, and you're really an inspiration. You're a lot of fun too. What I like is, yes, I like the smiles, I like the love, I like the hey buddy, like.
I'm so glad you don't think my voices are torquey.
Oh, I know. Anyway, thank you so much. We appreciate it. I wish you continued success. I did tell you, you must check out my favorite vehicle, the Lucid. Although somebody slagged it online the other day for something went wrong, and I was hurt. I was just hurt.
Now I'm like, go
Anyway,
look where I can find one and go get to it.
my experience is the Lucid showrooms. And are you in New York City? Or are you?
I'm in Maine, so I think Boston might have one, and if not, probably.
Boston's got one. It's right next to the chat. Oh gosh. Oh.
I can't not have a yeah though. Like you just can't. And anybody from Boston knows that. So
Exactly, exactly. But yeah, their philosophy. Actually, I just look out my window and there's one. Their philosophy is come in and drive it. You don't have to come in and pretend you're looking to buy it because they know they're not cheap, and they
yeah,
know that only 10% of the market can qualify for it, and of that 10% will buy it. But
yeah,
boy, the more people that talk about it, I hate to say it, but whew, what a car.
yeah,
Anyway, thank you again. I've always enjoyed talking to you, and I wish you continued success. And I'm very sad I won't see you at NADA, which this will
yeah.
be out after NADA, but we'll figure it out. I'd love to meet you in person. Right. All the best. Thank you again. Continued success, and check out Erica Bruno-Martin and Global SUV and watch it for Take Over the Globe and her. Thank you very much. Bye bye.
Thank